Hi everybody, I am Laser Dude, and this is my brother Dustin.
Dustin J. Hilary.
And we are two big film buffs. We love movies, but we also have very different taste in movies.
That's probably accurate, yes.
I mean, so we thought, well, we should put what our type of movies that we like would be like against the other person. A movie that you could say is not up their alley.
Yeah, for instance, I hate superhero films. Yuck. Gross.
Why do you hate
them? Why do I hate them?
Yeah.
The storylines are pretty cliche. It's the whole foundation is usually set on the what I would see as a flimsy notion. There are good guys and bad guys in the world, which is like something just inherently I don't believe. And sometimes a superhero film might be able to diverge from that narrative, but it's kind of like the bedrock of the whole genre, so it's kind of hard to most of the time. Though I think they try sometimes, but it's still like, why not just tell a different story?
All right, I sometimes, when it gets into too artsy, when a movie is too far up its own rear end to see the daylight, sometimes I'm just like, why am I supposed to care about, like, sure, this guy's whole life might be a deeper meaning for something that happened in the 60s, but also, I don't care. You know, why should I care about this person?
Also, you like some classic films.
Of course.
But
and you like some superhero stuff, I'm sure. At least enjoyed it.
But generally, you like newer stuff too.
Dude, you once said Transformers 2 was a good movie. Where do you get it?
That was joking.
No, you.
Yeah, it was.
And The Happening. Do you still like The Happening?
No, I rewatched it once. It was my first day with Carrie, so it was great just because I was sitting next to her. But
anyway. So the two movies that we have selected to test each other and see how we go to will be honest reactions. I've chosen the movie Superman vs. the Elite. It's an animated superhero movie, and I think it'll be good.
And I've chosen Drugstore Cowboy, which is a film from the 80s. It's kind of like a crime on the run kind of thing. It's like, it's not I think it was like slightly indie for its time. And, you know, forgotten a little bit, but not, you know, a lot of people still enjoy it.
Alright, and we'll see if, even though these movies aren't up our alleys, and we'll see if we'll have a good time with them.
Not up my alley.
Alright, we just got finished watching Superman vs. the Elite. We were doing my nephew, Cohen. Cole, what did you think?
That movie was great.
Yeah? What did you like about it?
I liked the part when Superman turned evil.
Yeah, when he was pretending to be evil.
You wish Superman was evil?
If you want that, play Injustice. It's a video game. But yes.
Really?
Yeah,
It
it's an ultimate dimension Superman who's evil, but yes. It's a standout scene for sure when he comes out and you think that he's like full on psychopath and it's like scary. It's literally like if Superman was evil, what would he be like? What would he be like? How terrifying would he really be? And yeah, it's a standout scene.
Is he like? Okay. Tell me about.
Well, I'll tell you about it later. We're gonna do this video now. So
it's
Dustin, Dustin.
10 of 10 stars.
Now, you going into this weren't sure what you were gonna make of this. This is not a movie up your alley. What did you think about it?
Well, I kind of think what I was saying before. So the limitations of a superhero story are that it essentially, the foundation of it is bad guy does something, good guy stops the bad guy from doing that thing through violence. And it's like, and this was interesting because it was trying to like kind of be like, no, that's not what's happening. But then, you know, you're kind of like, it's still what's happening, right? It's like, okay, we're not murdering people, we're just beating the crap out of them. Okay, we're not, you know, it's still like we don't murder people. We don't murder people. We put them in jail, and then we just gotta beat them up before we do that. And there's this one scene even where even like the need for like any type of violence or like is shown is kind of shown how ridiculous. If there were people like superhero in the world, where he's ripping the missiles out of like out of the jets, and then you're just thinking, okay, well, why doesn't he just get rid of all the nukes in an hour? He get rid of all the nukes in the world, get rid of all the military grade weapons. And it's like even the fact that there's like
putting him. He would be putting himself like as God over all humans. And that's the whole point of Superman is he's not that. He's here to help. He's not here to decide humanity's fate. He's not here to be the person who decides everything for everyone, because that's not what someone with this sort of power should do. And I get what you're saying. Is like you think that it's like violence isn't it, but like violence it has to be a reaction. If like if you've got somebody who's shooting a bunch of people, you can't just we can't solve this with violence. You have to shoot the guy who's shooting a bunch of people. But in this world is a world where he's like you don't have to shoot. Like he can do it without violence. I
suppose it depends. Like most like
in this movie, the atomic skull is literally like wiping people out. What would you have him do? Debate them?
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, I think the whole setup is ridiculous, right? The whole setup is that there's these super powerful people that need to be beaten senseless and stopped but not killed, just beaten to the point of death. And then it's just kind of like this, oh no, this is like this moral point I'm gonna make. We'll beat people up to the point of death, but no, we'll kill them.
I have a feeling that your movie is gonna have a whole lot more people doing drugs and killing people and just being way less moral.
Drugs.
It's called Drugstore Cowboy or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you can't tell stories that have violence in them, but I'm just saying like to turn and be like, oh, actually, this is the moral thing. We are being super moral.
Yeah, but I'm asking, what would you have him do differently?
Well, I just say I just think the whole genre is played out because then you're like.
I think it's a good turn on this typical superhero plot because it is talking about the morals. Like, what would someone with this much power? How much would they be allowed to take it? How far would they be allowed to push this envelope? Like Batman breaking into people's houses. That's definitely a violation of privacy and stuff like that. And there's certain limits that we allow our superheroes to take the law into their own hands. But it's like, how much is too much? How much would be...
But, to answer your first question, it's just like the whole setup is like the whole setup is so limiting because you have basically it's like you have these heroes that have to stop crime through violence. Like that's
police have to stop crime through violence.
Which makes sense why the super villain exists because it's like, well, we got to find a way for them to be violent towards this person and still be the hero.
Yes.
Because I guess it doesn't hurt them.
Any movie with a protagonist needs an antagonist.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is I think that's why there are supervillains because it's like, you can't I guess you have people like, Batman where he goes around and just kind of beats up people and stops them. But it's like, I'm just saying like the premise is faulty because the premise is like good guys, bad guys, stop the bad guys through violence.
I just don't see how that's any different from any other story.
The premise is limiting.
You got protagonist, antagonist in every single story. Good guy, bad guy.
Yeah, and then but then to stop, then that person stops the protagonist.
But there's more to the story than just
through violence,
good
and
guys
then that
fighting
makes
bad
them
guys.
a hero. Like violence makes you a hero. It's just like I just don't. I don't really buy it. It's like it's extremely
They're heroes. They saved a whole bunch of people in the subway who were going to be drowned.
No. Yeah, you're saying, hey, this situation. I'm saying the whole situation.
Yeah, but I don't see how that's different from any other movie. Just because.
What do you mean, any other movie?
Well, like what? You have a movie about a cop who is just doing his regular duty, and then all of a sudden he's put into an intense situation where somebody's, people are shooting, killing innocent people, or doing whatever, and he has to resort to violence to save the day. Like, why is that not? Why is that okay in a superhero movie who has a superhero who has to do that?
Because statistically, it's like that's not the truth. It's like those situations are like
but it's movie, it's fantasy.
I know, but it's also supposed to reflect real life in a way, and I think it's like if this is supposed to reflect something, if this is supposed to be like reflecting something in real life, I'm not sure what they're reflecting.
Well, I think a lot of it is about how we can't lose sight of morality in the world as we're going forward. Like, we have more and more people, especially these days, who are just like, well, if they're a bad person, we should kill them or get rid of them or do whatever we want to them because they did something bad. We should just kill them. We should be the ones to decide their fate and whatnot. And the movie is about how, like, we can't be just, like, other people's actions don't excuse our actions. Just because somebody else is doing something terrible and horrible doesn't mean we have the right to do the same terrible and horrible things back at them.
And I guess it's like what I liked about the film maybe is because it's not, because I guess if it's using this superhero world to kind of say something about our world, it's like, brazenly anti-capital punishment, right? It would be. I mean, if you're saying like, what does it say about our world? Then it's very anti-capital punishment.
Well, I think it's a lot just to like our other people's actions don't excuse our own.
Well, sure, maybe a point too, but I'm just
saying, like if somebody is,
it's a personal point. But I'm saying like what's saying about our world in general. It's like it's very anti-capital punishment. It's like on the war front, it's kind of like interesting because it's saying like it basically says like don't kill terrorists, which is an interesting thing. So I think it's like
I think it's like Superman wouldn't kill terrorists. Not that like if you're in a war with a terrorist.
No, but like anything, science fiction or this is supposed to be saying things about real life, right? And of course it's fictionalized. I don't think they're trying to get across only Superman can't kill terrorists. I think they're saying like we shouldn't be murdering terrorists. I would bet $100. I would bet $100 the writer of this.
I mean, like if you had them in custody, yeah, I don't think we should just straight up murder
or torture them.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you bring in like the American military has tortured prisoners at Abu Ghraib and not giving them trials and held them at Guantanamo Bay and stuff like that. I see like this is a movie that's probably critical of those things, and the American government doing those things. And there's even one point where the bad guy says, I know it's the bad guy making the point, but I think the point sticks, is that the bad guy says, well, this is what your government does all the time, And so I...
Kills people and calls themselves heroes.
Right, yeah. So, and I think so I really like that about it. I bet you I bet whoever wrote this story and me, probably a lot of our morals line up. I just think it's extremely limiting to do it within the structure where like positive violence is like a need in the story. So it's I think it's doing I like what it's saying. I like the message of it, but then it's like
I guess the positive violence is a need in every action movie. Well, unless it's a movie about like despicable people.
Well, that's why I don't like action movies, so necessarily because it's just kind of glorifies like the kind of this lone soldier violence. It's I don't know. I always find there's a certain type of person every once in a while that you meet that really kind of sees themselves as as this self-important
the world. I'm the last line of defense.
They just can't wait to there's a security guard at this mall that I used to go to, and I remember him just saying one time, I just can't wait till someone does something. And I always call that Batman syndrome because it's because it seems like you want peace. It seems like if I had to, I'd beat that person up for the peace. But really, they have the desire to, right? And that's why it's and I guess it said in this film. That's why I kind of I like the themes. I do like the film. I just think it's a hard sell within the genre. So it's Superman says something about how he heard someone say, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool to be able to kill bad guys?"
Yeah, kids.
And how that's a really sick idea, right? And that the kids are growing up with this idea of "Oh, wouldn't it be cool to when really it's like any, if you ask any anyone in the military or any police officer or anything that has had to take someone's life, it's just like it's life altering for the rest of their life. It's not just like, wow, that was great. It was like it messes them up in the head for life, So it's like, and that's something you really can't. Like, even so much of what happens in this movie, if that happened, it would just traumatize someone for life, and it would be, which you can't really have in these stories. Like, you can't have Superman just being like completely traumatized. He needs to be cool and collected, right? But like, even him just knowing that, well, he was doing this, they were off killing like whole governments, and he'd be like, that would be a traumatizing thing for him, or that like when they're fighting, something landed on some civilian or something, I don't like that. Those are the things that would like traumatize a person for life. But for the story, they can't kind of dwell on that because it's not a drama. So
I mean, there have been superhero comics that have delved into the trauma that people have gone through. It's becoming a lot more thing now. There's an episode of Young Justice where like the team in the show, they go through something really traumatic where they think like every one of their friends dies, and the next episode is them just going through therapy and receiving like the beginnings of like psychological treatment for all the stuff that they went through. So it is becoming something that is superhero shows and stuff are diving, and comics are diving more and more into. But it's like so much you can tell in them.
I will admit, because I have sworn off kind of like superhero movies for a long time, but every time I do watch one, I do kind of like it. And it is because I think these writers and these filmmakers and cartoonists, like they're or call them cartoonists, animators, I think they're trying to like I think they're trying to answer those questions, like even like the movie we talked about, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's an action film, but also it's critiquing. It's like an action film in itself, while critiquing the idea that violence can lead to positive change. So it's like, it's kind of like, maybe I shouldn't be so against it, because I do enjoy it, like, because it is like almost like a self-critique of the genre itself. And honestly, it's like it's probably not the superhero film. It's probably not alone in that. I think there's a lot of horror films now that are being self-reflective and turning almost inward and being like, what's kind of like
what it would be like to
what's toxic about this? What are the toxic ideas within this genre, and then how do we spin those? But then I think a step beyond that would be like, what would it be like to create some new genres? When was the last time we had a new genre?
Well, like, what would you make?
I know.
Like, anything in the future is science fiction. Anything in the past is a period piece. Any alternate dimension scene is still science fiction. Like, what type of new genre could you even make up?
I don't know. That's a good question, Paul. Let's invent it.
We're gonna just invent a new genre. All right. Put in the comments, what is a new genre of film?
Wait, is this a genre yet? The superhero that's bad at their job?
I mean, I still think it would follow under superhero movie. There's been movies like that. There's
like they don't do it good. They're like
Super with that guy who played Dwight.
It's just them getting beat up for an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, this kick arse.
Oh, he gets beat up a lot.
Yeah, he barely actually does anything good. He's with like other people who are actually better superheroes.
So that's already done. That's already a genre. Okay, we'll be another good. I do notice that superhero films are often like, because I think it's a genre that was, has been like running itself. So I have seen like try to be innovative and stuff, and it's like kind of like pull with like other genres. So like Logan, for instance, was like, okay, we're gonna be like a drama indie film, but a superhero film. Or there's that one, the New Mutants, or I don't know.
New Mutants was terrible,
or something like that. But it was like a horror film.
It was trying to be,
or I don't know. I didn't watch it.
But
it was interesting. Like, it's like I think it is a limiting genre, but also there's obviously a lot of creative people trying to embrace those limits and try and make something out of it. Whether that means like throwing another genre in, or whether that means like critiquing the genre itself. But I don't know. But I enjoyed it. I thought I'm a sucker for speeches about how mankind can do better, and I'm a big Doctor Who fan. Like that's what I love about Doctor Who. Every time a gun is used in Doctor Who, I'm like, come on. This is supposed to be the show that's like you figure things out with your brain and lying and.
Well, it's rarely ever the Doctor using a gun.
Yeah, it's true. He's never used his one, but still.
I can think of one.
Every once in a while, someone uses a gun and they kind of needed to in the story, and I'm like, yeah, So I do enjoy narratives that like can skirt, because I think it's true to life that like, and I shouldn't talk. I've made like a crime film and stuff like that. Because I think we can. I'm not against violence in film or television. I think it's can be used. You greatly. Just think
that if it's only portrayed as a force for good.
Yeah, I just don't like the moralizing of it. I think it's like use it to make things complex, or use it to show how horrible someone can be, or use it to like. There's all these different ways.
Yeah,
but or even like use it as a gag or a joke. Those are funny sometimes. Like,
yeah. I get you, but I feel in this it was like Superman had to use violence to stop the bad guy, but the main thing was like the message that he did for the world, where it's just like, would you want a Superman who would be willing to cross this line? Would you want somebody who would be willing to would you want that?
Honestly that's why I liked the film, because it's saying like it's really a message to us. It's how far do we want to go. So when
Manchester Black?
No, I was talking about when ISIS. I was trying to think of the word ISIS.
Oh.
When ISIS was like a big thing. They did a poll in Canada to say who's okay with drone strikes, with Canada doing drone strikes, which is like, they always say it's like, oh, like they're really, no one gets hurt. It's like there's women and children getting murdered in those things like all the time, And so, but 70% of Canadians said that they wanted drone strikes because they wanted to feel safe. And so I think a film like this is maybe saying like, how far do you want to go for your safety? Like how, those terrorists and sickos and dictators, they're out there, but how far do you want to go against them for your own safety? And I think so. That's I did like the film, and that's one of the reasons I did, is because I think it was asking that question. And and to be honest, actually having someone in Superman who's like, I don't know, he's almost can be representative of the atomic bomb or whatever, but he's like kind of this all-powerful figure that can do whatever he wants. He can like kill everyone in the world probably in
he has the power to destroy the world in a punch.
24 hours, he probably, maybe even shorter, maybe in a half hour he could have the world ended like that. And like, how do you really want that person to be vengeful? And you kind of want, power has to have a limit. So.
All right. Well, that's us, and now we're gonna move on to Drugstore
Cowboy.
Okay. Let's see how we go.
Quiet on the set. Genius is at work.
So it is the next day, and we watched Drugstore Cowboy last night, but it was too late to do stuff, so we are now here this morning, and this is a movie that was not up my alley, and I gotta say it's fine.
It's pretty great.
It's fine.
It was wonderful.
I don't know, when I see a movie like this, it's just like, okay, that was a couple hours out of my life, and I just saw somebody ruin their own lives. It's like they just had a terrible time, and then the movie was over.
As I guess using the language the movie would use, the drug fiend narrative is like a tricky one. It's a tricky story to tell because, let's be honest, it is kind of interesting. I mean, someone. Wasting the way. It's interesting enough that there's enough narratives out there that people like watch and read about. We're gonna use the term. Let's use the term drug fiend, because that's the term he uses in the film, right?
Okay,
isn't it?
Yeah,
drug fiend. Yeah. So
He never once calls himself a drugstore cowboy.
He doesn't. No. So we're gonna use that term, drug fiend, instead of drug addict or drug.
Yeah.
Or druggie, or whatever. We'll just say drug fiend because that's the term he uses. But those narratives are interesting, and there's a lot of them out there. But it's like you can tell there's this like, well, how do you tell a story like that? Because you also don't want it to be encouraging other people to get addicted. Because everyone who has been addicted to drugs does not recommend it.
Which are bad.
Even people who are currently on drugs most of the time don't recommend it.
Except the dealers.
So that's true, but especially after they've cleaned up, it's like, that thing ruined my life.
Now, according to this movie, though, you're never ever clean.
Well, he said you never. He said he was getting clean.
He was, yes.
But he was okay. Here we go. Spoilers.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Drugstore, if you haven't seen Drugstore Cowboy, then it came out in 1989. So
here, I'll describe it just because there'll be an outside perspective on it.
Sure.
We got these 4 people. One is the ringleader, and their goal is to have a good time at all costs. They steal drugs from drugstores. In
hospitals.
In hospitals. But the heat's on them a little bit, and so they're hopping from town to town, stealing from all these different hospitals, and you just go and watch their drug-fueled lives. Occasionally you get a trippy scene or two, but it's mostly just like how they're going to get their next fix and whatever they'll do to do it, and the lengths that they will go to try to get these things, and then also the paranoia that seeps into their lives. Like, this guy will be so paranoid about everything, and at first I thought he was like not joking, but I thought he was using it to manipulate the new girl. She's like, oh, don't say the word dog because that is a bad jinx and stuff. And he's been like crap to her the whole movie, so I thought he was just doing that. But no, he legitimately believes all these paranoias that he says, like, if there's a hat on the bed, oh my gosh, might as well kill yourself. It's just the worst thing in the world. And
well, I mean, it's a hex. You get a hex put on you, but turned out to be true.
It's a movie. Anything you write can turn out to be true.
Yeah. No, well, it is actually. It is. It's based on a novel, but it's based on the novel is autobiographical in parts. Obviously, not the ending because the writer wrote it. But
wait, so you think he dies at the end?
Oh.
Because I didn't get that at all.
I just assumed he did, but you're right. He probably didn't.
We see him in the back of an ambulance. We don't see him, like, pass out.
Yeah.
We just see him. I mean, maybe it's open to interpretation.
Sure, yeah. Well, the very last words are, I'm still alive. I hope they can keep me alive.
Yeah.
So I guess he survives.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
Yeah. So, but
a little ambiguous. Like, maybe he's hoping that he won't fall back on it.
I do think these narratives are interesting, and they're probably hard to tell though, because it's like you're kind of telling like this interesting story about being on drugs while also trying to like the overall message is like he wants to get clean and get off of them.
Yeah, but well, eventually.
But his life is the most boring when he's clean, even though he does talk about how it's so satisfactory and he gets so much meaning out of it. Working this kind of shitty job, being in this shitty apartment. And so it's like he gets so much meaning out of that. And I think that is true, but it's hard to depict on screen, right? That is actually, I think it is true that like having a full, fulfilling life isn't like bombastic and like it doesn't probably like view nice as a film, but being on drugs kind of does, So
you have to be high to enjoy the film. No, okay.
No. I think his damaging lifestyle is easier to predict as fulfilling than his day-to-day lifestyle.
Yeah,
on film.
It's like the thing is with a movie like this is like. And I didn't dislike the film or anything, but it's a film that's like, I'm only ever going to see this once. Because even this scenes that are really intense, and I'll say the most intense part of the scene is one of his crew, she overdoses on drugs, she dies in their apartment,
In a
a
hotel
hotel that they're
room.
staying at. And so at first he just thinks he's going to just throw the body into the attic and leave it there, but then they find out that a sheriff convention is in town, and they're all going to be filling up these rooms, and so now he's panicking because he thinks if he leaves it up there, they're going to figure it out, because if anyone's going to smell what a dead body is like and recognize that smell, it might be like someone who works in law enforcement. And so now he's freaking out, and like, how do I get this out? Which I will say, you even said this when we were watching that film, the scene kind of like...
It was a very strange cut. It was a very strange edit, yeah.
We see them getting her out of the attic, which is funny. It's one of those things where you're kind of laughing uncomfortably because they're like throwing the dead body around.
Accidentally,
yeah. Yeah, but then it's like, I was expecting to be a scene where he has to carry this dead body around all of these sheriffs, and like the music just, and is he going to get caught? And like the next scene is she's just dropping it in the trunk.
Yeah, so it cuts from them inside the hotel, putting her in a bag, and then it just cuts to she's in the trunk and he shuts the trunk, which is, you're like, oh, that kind of like threw away an opportunity for a suspenseful.
Yeah. If I was a filmmaker, I would have had like a one shot from them carrying her right out the door, walking past all the cops and everything.
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting because like Gus Van Sant, who made the film, he's most famous for Good Will Hunting, though he didn't write that, but he wrote this. He's like one of those writer-directors for the most part. Did Even Cowgirls, Get the Blues, but he's not your typical filmmaker, so I could see him just like not being like, oh, that's what most people would do, I'm not going to do it. But then he did make a film called Elephant, which is basically a reenactment of the Columbine shooting. And he pretty much like does that. He uses like, it's like, I'm trying to think if it's all in one shot, that film. I think if it's not all in one shot, it's like there's super long like tracking shots. If it's not one shot, it's like there's 10-minute long tracking shots at least. Where you're following, and does do that suspenseful thing. So I don't know if he's just like, I'm not going to do that for a minute. I'll do it for a whole movie, maybe. I don't know. But
well, and maybe you said this was made in the '80s, so maybe they didn't have that sort of mindset just wasn't in filmmaking at the time. I think we have a lot more like long extended shots now.
Yeah, Hitchcock did it in Rope.
Yeah, but that was Hitchcock. Not everyone was doing Hitchcock stuff.
Yeah, but anyways, but yeah, it was like he's an interesting filmmaker, and like some of the choices were interesting. Yeah, I
think like dramas like this, like a lot of times, I shouldn't say never, but a lot of times I'm just not fulfilled. It's like, so this was his life. It sucked for the most part. He got clean. Good for him. Yeah. The end. It's like, and I don't know what that is, speaking about personal preference for movies or whatnot, but it's just like, whatever reason would I have to come back and see this movie again? Even the suspenseful scenes, I know how they're going to play out. Like, even him getting shot was such a weird, like, understage. Like, you just lay there in the back, bang, I got you. And he didn't, like, cry out, like, oh my gosh, I've been flipping shot. It's just like,
right.
Oh, he wasn't even high at the time.
So the interesting thing is like, living in the world we do, we possibly you've probably seen a real human being shot on camera a couple times, probably at least from the internet. I mean,
I've never looked up like real people getting.
I don't ever looked at it, but there's those police shootings. There's those.
No,
have you never seen anything like that?
Never.
Oh, okay. Well,
you're the sicko here.
It is interesting that like. Well, I mean, it just. I don't know, maybe we got different news feeds or whatever, but like I mean, not that it's on Facebook.
I mean, like as far as I know,
But it is interesting because I've made a couple films where people get shot, and it is hard to figure out what to do because you realize like the difference between what happens in real life when that happens and what happens in a film. It's kind of really different, It's like, of course, the films, you have the people screaming out, yelling. I mean, you get some of that, but it's like, I don't know, you might just see someone go, and like fall over, and that's it.
Yeah,
you know.
that's when they're dead.
Also, you might not see any blood. That's another thing, you know. So it's like, you know, like a lot of those. I mean, of course, it's like when someone's catching like a police shooting on camera or something like that. I mean, they're not like, okay, here, let me, you know, they're further away and stuff. But you know, it is interesting, like how I will be interested to see how violence will be depicted when we do live in a world where people are seeing real violence more often on their phones.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I felt it. It's just like that scene. I just felt there's a lot of scenes that I felt like, okay. I guess I just didn't get the point of the story itself. Drugs are bad. Beyond that, like, what is the story just about?
I don't think that is the message. I think it's like
no, I don't really think it's.
I'd say drugs are fun. Drugs are understandable. Why people get addicted to them. Drugs limit your capabilities. Drugs, like, I think it's more than they're bad or they're good or whatever. I think it's just like they are a bunch of certain things. Like, and I think if you add all those up, it equals maybe to an. It's not like a positive.
Obviously, I mean, when I say drugs are bad, obviously I don't think it's doing it in the PSA sort of ways. Like, This is crack. This is your head on crack.
Yeah,
you know, or something like that.
I almost wonder. It's like, I wonder if someone reading that would be, if it would like take them a step forward to doing drugs or not, or step away from doing drugs. Like, I mean, it depends on people's personalities.
Oh, yeah.
But I was thinking that I was like, I wonder what effect that would have on someone because really you have this protagonist that gets into drugs and then they're able to get out. And even though in the very story you have people who weren't able to do that and weren't able to get out, keep living the lifestyle or die, which is basically like the option for most people in real life, you know? And but there's a certain thing like it's like survivor's bias, right? So it's like, well, who writes those books? The people who are still hooked on drugs and can't string a word together? No.
It's the people
who die. No, they don't write these stories.
Well,
it's like
they're not giving themselves a chance.
It's the people who have gotten out, and so it kind of gives you a bias to think.
You have a bias because you can actually live to write it.
I know, but it gives people a bias because we have so many stories of people getting out of that lifestyle that there's a bias of like or being able to quit or whatnot. Like he's kind of on the road to being able to quit. He's even around it and he doesn't do it, right? So it's like you're like, oh, he's gonna get clean. I mean, he does get shot because of his previous choices, but
I don't know. That feels to me like you know, a lot of people say war is bad, but that's only a bias because we only ask the people who survived the way back. You know, maybe the people who died there didn't think it was that bad.
I think that might be true as well. You know, it's like I mean, like that's a totally different.
Yeah, I know. It was a bad example. That's like.
But I mean, there might be examples of like maybe it's like we keep getting into wars because we haven't had a war that ended at all. You know, it's like so we think we can keep doing it when it's like this many countries have like atom bombs at this point. It's like we can't afford to get into another world war. Like the world is toast. But we've never. It's kind of like if you've never destroyed everything, then you kind of think, wow. Always been okay before, you know, and I think that's part of this in these drug tales. It's like it's a survivor's bias there because you're not getting these other stories, and even in this story where we do see someone die, just instinctually we identify with the protagonist. We don't identify with the other person, right?
And so, yeah, well, I mean, there's other cops and stuff in this film, but they do like the Godfather route, where if there's any cop or anything like that, they always just make them as crooked and as terrible as possible, so you don't really feel like they're the good guys in this story.
I thought that cop was really complex.
Well, that one cop was, yes.
Because he is like corrupt in the fact that he'll like tear through their house looking for the drugs without a warrant.
Just like, why can't we just plant drugs on them and call it a day?
But it seemed very like that was just the time. Like it wasn't like, and even like the characters, they're not like, I'm gonna talk to my senator. They're just like, yeah, this is just part of it. You know, you live this life, and they are breaking the law, and they just understood that you're gonna get your house torn up by the cops sometimes, and maybe you'll get one up on them and get someone pull a prank,
flipping murdered.
pull a prank on them or whatever.
Prank.
But well, he got shot. He didn't get killed because he's the one that he thinks is going to kill him at the end.
I don't know about that. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe that is the case. But I mean, it was a flipping shotgun.
Because he lost his job, and shotguns from long distances actually most people do survive that because it's like
there's still a large spread.
It's a scatter shot, but
anyways.
But yeah. Anyways, but I don't know.
I guess here's the question: like, what do you really enjoy about these sort of stories? Like, what's the thing that gets down to you? Why a story like this is up your alley?
Oh, because it's like it shows the complexity of being human for sure. Like it's not, if you take the year movie we watched, it's like, it is dealing with some complex issues, but it's like, I mean, Superman's always perpetually good, and the Skull guy is always perpetually bad, and you got these like really kind of like, whereas like this one doesn't really have good guys or bad guys. You got like people who are addicted to something that are like living a certain lifestyle.
You're pretty much all bad guys.
And you got cops that are being kind of dicks, but in the end, he like every character in that film is a complex character. Like
I'd say they're all bad.
You have the cop who is like doing anything to bring these drug addicts down, but and at the end when he gets clean, he's like happy for him, and he like, even though he breaks into his apartment to tell him, but he's like he wants him to succeed, so that's a complex character. He's not good or bad, he's like he's a mix. And then like you got, and maybe for you just default to be like, well, they're bad if they're mixed, but I think those are the priest is a really complicated character. But he's a priest for goodness sake, but he's addicted to drugs. He got other people addicted. He got Matt Dillon's character hooked on drugs as a kid. Because remember he said I've been on drugs my whole life. So basically he like got all these kids hooked on drugs.
So he's bad. That's bad.
So like he wasn't molesting them, but he was.
No. He was like
no.
In a completely different way.
It's like no, I wouldn't do that. I just give him heroin.
Yeah, what are you talking about? I'm not one of those priests.
That was an interesting casting choice because that I looked it up after that actor. That's William S. Burroughs. He's a writer, he's a beat poet, and kind of like well known for being that exact same type of drug addict. And he quit and got clean off of a program like that. So there's like different types of drug programs. Some of them like are some drug programs are more about like community building and stuff. So it's like they don't give you any more drugs. It's just like you just like through a community you get off drugs. But then the program that Matt Dillon's character is on, that's the methadone program, which they still use in the UK, and I think they use it in the States, where it's like methadone is basically a heroin, but it's like, I don't know how it's different. You don't shoot it in your arm, but it's like basically they give you methadone, and then you kind of like, and they kind of get you off by giving you methadone.
Yeah, less and less. Yeah.
And so it's like, which is, yeah, and I don't know how it works, but it's like a lot of people just get addicted to methadone.
And the funny thing is, like, the stuff that they had back then is like they were having like, what was it, cocaine was back there and stuff.
Cocaine was at the pharmacy. Yeah.
Caitlin and I, my wife, we watched Dope Sick on Disney Plus, and it's about OxyContin, and
that's what William S. Burroughs would always do.
Yeah. And like how many lives that drug like messed up and stuff, and it's like how like everyday drugs that they were just selling over the counter was doing so much, in like they were selling them on the streets and stuff. And it's just so interesting, like how much of an impact like that can have. But now I know what you're saying. Like for a story like Superman with his lead, Superman is the good guy unequivocally. But I think there's a lot of times in the movie like where he questions, is like, what is the world wanting? Do I fit in this new world that everyone is wanting? a sort of thing. Now, yeah, Superman's always going to be
Yeah.
the good guy and the moral, but I think there's room for characters
Superman's
like that.
character is kind of chiseled in stone. Like he can't become. He's always got to be who he is. I mean,
Because
they throw in
characters
that
need to
red
be-
kryptonite thing, like so he
On
can
Smallville,
get, so he
yeah.
can get like a little bad, but even that's not complex because he's
Yeah,
like he's
Superman and Smallville, the
it's like-
worst
it's
he
like
did is like, let's make
hypnotized
out
or-
in front of my girlfriend. And
yeah,
he's
that's
like,
more like he's like, oh, he made a mistake because he was on an altering substance that he couldn't control, So that's different than being a human being.
hey, these guys
It's
were on some
complicated.
mind-altering substance that they could control, I guess.
Yeah, and morality is complicated, and I don't know. William S. Burroughs is interesting because I read an article on why he got clean, and he got clean because he was on drugs, and he said he spent a whole week looking at his toe. And then he realized I'm not doing anything, and he wanted to do something, and so for him it was again about experiencing life, but he decided, so that's why, and he did a program similar to what the Matt Dillon characters did, where they give you drugs for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
The
thing is, with a movie like that, you say how everyone's complex and no one's completely good and evil. But there's a lot of and I believe people can be redeemed, but I think for most of the movie, everyone was just bad. A flippin' girl on his crew dies, and his first thought isn't, oh, that's terrible for her, or oh, we knew her, or anything.
Right.
It's how am I gonna hide this and stuff, and that is unequivocally, morally, that is a bad thing. Now, his character does get clean, but it wasn't even because she died that he got clean. He got clean because she left the flippin' hat on the bed, and he thought he was jinxed, and he said, God, if you will help me get this body out of here, I will get clean to undo the jinx.
Right.
So it's a lot of the characters in this movie are selfish, and even when he gets clean, he still is doing it for selfish, self-centered reasons. And don't get me wrong, we need stories like that. I think that not every movie even needs to have a character that you can relate to or think that they are the inspirational character to follow. But in that same tone, I think you do need stories about role models and characters to look up to, and that's these are the people that we need to try to aspire to be like.
Sure. Yeah. But I do think I'm not too into hero worship, because I think because then it's even some of the heroes I have who seem to be pretty perfect individuals. Everyone has a thing,
Yeah,
so
nobody's perfect.
So my personal hero is Tommy C. Douglas, who's as a politician, and especially as a socialist politician, people been trying to bring him down for years, looking for any evidence against him that he ever did anything or had a wrong idea, and they finally found a paper he wrote as a freshman in college. And then, when you write papers your freshman year in college, you just write down whatever. It's
you're full of yourself. You're writing.
You don't even necessarily agree with stuff. I'm just it's due tomorrow, whatever.
Yeah.
And he said something supporting eugenics, which which is the finding out the sterilization of people with mental disabilities or something like that, right? And that kind of thing, or making it so that no one with any mental disability could even be born or things like that. That's all eugenics. So
we all think Steve's thoughts in our 20s.
Yeah, and whether who knows how much of that he even thought, but he said, yeah, I don't think when it came out he was still alive, and he was obviously I don't. But even to find that essay, think about that. How did someone find that essay? Well, someone went and searched for it, and they're trying to bring him down. You know what I mean? And they're and he was just yeah, I don't think that anymore. So even someone like him, and then people bring that up to me all the time. I say, Thomas C. Douglas is my hero, and they're well, he loves eugenics, and it's even him, who's kind of this near perfect individual, has some stuff, and I've got to be able to say, yeah, I mean, he wasn't perfect.
Yeah, and
it's this is the chunk of things that I aspire to, And this is a chunk of things that I'm like, I just understand he's imperfect and it's fine, you know?
Yeah, but and that's, but I mean, like, for a fictional character, you know, it's like, it's okay. I think it's okay to write somebody who is someone that we should try to strive to be like. And don't get me wrong, the guy is written bad a lot, you know, like somebody who doesn't understand, like, or just has a bad idea. There's this one comic where, like, Superman kicks out, like, these, like, gangsters from this part of the city, and the kid is like, aren't they just going to move to another city? He's like, yeah, but they'll be over there, and over there has to solve their own problems. It's just like, it's really bad, you know, like badly written.
Yeah.
But sometimes just people don't, you know, it's like, that's just going to happen with the character. But I think...
Okay, well, let's say this. The characters in your movie or my movie, which one has more complex characters?
I mean, I would say, man, like, I'm not saying it's right away. I'd say like Manchester Black is a complex character in his own. Like, he has a bit of he wants to do good, he wants to do things, but he also has, like, lines that he will cross and do whatever it takes to do it. Now, your movie has a complex character. Like, the main character is complex. He has to go through a lot, but we never see anything from the other character's point of view.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, what is the character of his, like, second in command, the guy?
That's true.
Like,
yeah.
What is his personality, even?
Yeah, it's not much, yeah. So I'd say Matt Dillon's character is complex. I would say the cop is complex.
Yeah, I guess.
I'd say his wife is complex. And then the other two are pretty not filled out very much.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, this movie is not trying to be complex. That's the difference. It's like, it's like, I'm not trying to say which one of these would be more worthy for an Oscar here. You know, it's like, this is not the point of this. Is just try to think, like, outside the box a little bit for each one of these.
Drugstore Cowboy won 4 Oscars. I'm just kidding, it didn't. It did win some awards, though. I think it won, like, a Independent Spirit Award. Or something.
Independent Spirit. That's the most hippie award I've ever heard.
That's the best ones. This is where all the good movies are.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
I mean, like, and they're pretty loose on the term independent. Like, you know, Jennifer Lawrence has won an Independent Spirit. You know what I mean? It's
right.
It's
was it for?
It's not like super underground.
Was it for Winter's Bone?
No, it was for
Sylvia Lane's playbook.
Yeah, so maybe she won something for Winter's Bone too. But I didn't. I wasn't really.
I was like, that's like the most indie movie that she's been in.
Yeah, it's a pretty indie movie. I wonder if that did do good.
Anyways, like, we're getting.
Let's look it up. Facts.
I don't. I'm not gonna do
He's
that.
not gonna do that.
I'm not gonna do that. Anyways, we're just having regular life conversations now, less about the movies in general. So.
Note to self. Wait.
So I guess. I think we both enjoyed at least somewhat the movies that we watched.
I think they're both good.
I don't think either one of us will ever really feel the need to watch each other's movie ever again.
I don't know. I'm not a big second watcher generally.
Yeah, so yeah, but we enjoyed it, and this is just a little trip up the alley.
Be sure to check out some of these other videos on my channel. And wait for more coming soon.
I'm so glad we didn't name it Up Each Other's Alley. That would have sounded so wrong.